Transition, the process of change from one condition to another.
We are now at a new crossroad where change is evident once again.
What does not serve us must transform us anew.
Returning to our original state of oneness and true nature of that which created who we truly are.
Confusion was the way of the past. Enlightenment is the way of the now and future, shedding away the layers of deceit.
We now bring you the transformation of the two who started as one. Our fearless planet never stands still.
Earth has been in a process of transition, and we are not exempt from this remarkable ongoing reality.
Welcome to Transition Radio.
Well, good evening and welcome. My name is Mark Angelo Cummings.
And I'm Lena Ariel Cummings, and we want to thank you for joining us tonight for a special show that we have. And I wish that we didn't have to have this kind of a show, but it is called Three Shots in Minneapolis, from ICE raids to American fascism.
You know, I'm lost for words. It's like every day that goes by, every week that goes by, every year that goes by, instead of evolving as a human species, I find that we are devolving. It's like all the wonderful advancements that we had made, emotional, I can't even find the words. We've lost it all. We were like, it's crazy.
It really is. I mean, compared to where we were in 2015 to now,
Totally.
Can we think that we are more civilized now than we were back then?
Not at all. And, you know, I've been online for a very long time, and I've had people say things about me because of my transition, but it was never this way. It's like everyone is mad at everybody. Everyone's fighting about everything. There's like not a moment of peace.
Well, the hate has grown, and you know, we do have a president to thank for that, because way back when he was running, and even before when he was making fun of Barack Obama, he still calls him Barack Hussein Obama, as if it's like an offense to use his middle name, you know, just because it's associated with, you know, Saddam Hussein or something.
Well, he's just a very argumentative type of individual. He's always in turmoil, and the people that relate to him have that same kind of energy. And so it's just, we're living in such a mess that there's no other words to actually identify it. I mean, I've never in my 61 years of life have I ever remembered feeling the feelings that I feel now of hopelessness, anger. There's a lot of anger, you know, and I know anger is not a great emotion to feel, but I mean, you've got to let it out somewhere, you know.
I feel like this country is really getting to a place where it's at its boiling point.
Oh my gosh.
The people, the rhetoric, the outright lies that are being told to the American people.
Mm-hmm.
And there is literally a segment of the population that insists on believing those lies. And then there's the majority. I would think that there's a majority, not 79%, like somebody said on Facebook, that were Trump supporters.
I think they you know, it's like a magnet. That's the kind of energy that they enjoy, and they feed off of it. And they're not okay unless they're in turmoil. The president, the MAGA people, the people that are just loving this commotion instead of wanting peace and wanting to like get along as a species. It doesn't matter where you were born. You're still a human being. We are under a planet. You know, if some alien species came and attacked us, I wonder if that's what it'll take to have the human race unite instead of worried about right or left, Democrat, you know, Republican. I mean, it's like there's no need for that.
People all of a sudden think that if you do not support the current president, that you're like some flaming liberal that wants to like have like socialism dominate and communism to come into power. And, you know, the fact is that we're not political. We're humans.
Yeah.
We're not literally looking for party affiliation, for something to like connect to politically. Because honestly, politics is a dirty game and it's a mess. And there's evil and darkness on both sides. And politics is actually part of the system that seeks to enslave and control.
Yeah, politics and religion, which go very much hand in hand and has actually destroyed the human race. And where we're going to end up, I don't know. I really don't know what the future holds. But as of tonight, January 13th, Minneapolis isn't just the site of a killing, it's the site of escalation.
In the 6 days since Renee Nicole Good was shot and killed on January 7th, ICE has surged agents into my old hometown, the Twin Cities. People trying to document raids and arrests have reported being pepper sprayed and had pepper balls shot at them.
It's crazy and for no reason at all. But tonight there is a new layer. The Justice Department says it will not open a civil rights investigation into the shooting. That decision has triggered a wave of resignations, federal prosecutors and senior civil rights lawyers walking away rather than put their names on a refusal to investigate. This is like, it's never been seen before. This is crazy.
I mean, usually law enforcement works hand in hand with the Federal Bureau of Investigation in a matter such as this. I mean, the fact that the feds do not want the state to intervene or to be a partner says a lot about the federal government.
They're not acting in good faith. There's no good faith. It's like the same thing with the Epstein list. You know, it's like they are corrupt, a corrupt government with corrupt people in it.
Face it, America, we have really fallen off the deep end.
Totally.
Our president is a scoundrel. Yeah. He is a liar. He is a criminal. And he has unleashed criminals called ICE onto our streets. These men, they are wearing masks, and no other law enforcement, military, you know, a military would wear a mask if they needed to because of weather.
What are they hiding? They don't even wear a badge, and that should be the law. You have to identify yourself. They're asking for identification from people, but they don't identify themselves.
No, and here's the truth, though. These people were pardoned, many of them, and I'm sure they went right onto the payroll for the federal government under ICE and Border Patrol.
Yep.
At the same time, federal officials keep trying to turn this into a story about domestic terrorism. Now, really, can you stomach this? This is just ludicrous. They want a label that makes witnesses look like threats and make accountability feel, well, optional.
You know, they've been talking about domestic terrorism since Bush was in office, when they enacted the martial law and they enacted the Patriot Act and all that stuff. And it's like a chess game. And they've known how to put the pieces in place, and they've known exactly what they're up to. They know there's like, if people watch the movie Equilibrium, read the book 1984, this is the playbook. I mean, it's here. It's right on our doors. So that's the context for everything you're about to hear. Update for listeners. Since we drafted the first version of this episode, Minneapolis has become a national flashpoint. DHS has described the Twin Cities deployment as its largest immigration operation ever. Reporting puts the federal presence at roughly 2,000 officers. And the administration now says hundreds more are being sent. It's like it's a war zone.
It is. And, you know, Governor Tim Walz has a choice. He can deploy the National Guard to protect the citizens of the state.
And arrest all the ICE agents because they're being unlawful.
And what we're watching isn't just arrests. We're watching a crackdown on speech. Residents and protesters reporting pepper spray and pepper balls for showing up and recording and flashbangs and all these different chemical chemical irritants.
Yeah.
You know, it's basically chemical warfare that
Totally.
the president literally told people back in 2020, his own White House staff, can't we just shoot the protesters? And, you know, thankfully back then there were people that had, you know, morals, and they were like, no, you can't do that. This is America. He made sure not to have those people in his cabinet. And they're refusing to look away.
Yeah. So senior officials have floated absolute immunity language for federal agents. Legal experts dispute that. But the message to the public is plain. Don't even try to hold us accountable. So again, welcome to Transition Radio Show. We need to start with something that happens in public, in daylight, in a neighborhood that looks like 1,000 other neighborhoods.
And we're going to say it up front. This is heavy. If you're driving, keep both hands on the wheel. If you're washing dishes, maybe just pause a second. This is one of those moments.
January 7th, 2026, South Minneapolis, 9:37 in the morning.
A 37-year-old woman named Renee Nicole Good is sitting in her vehicle on a residential street.
Within seconds, she's shot 3 times in the head by a federal agent.
The witnesses say she bleeds out on the pavement while officers prevent a physician who happens to be nearby from rendering aid, while paramedics are held back for minutes that matter.
This is not a story about mistakes were made. This is a story about power, how it moves, how it panics, and how it protects itself.
It's also about something the system depends on, that you'll hear an acronym and your brain will go soft. Like, well, I'm sure ICE had a reason.
We're going to do our best to keep your brain firm. That's not a sentence I expected to say on air. But here we are.
Renee Nicole Good was a United States citizen. She was a mother. Neighbors described her as kind, like the kind of person who remembers her kid's name, who brings a plate over when someone's sick.
And in the official story that begins forming almost immediately, that humanity becomes irrelevant.
Because the machine doesn't process beloved neighbor, it processes subject.
Here's the question we're asking tonight. How does a country get to the point where a federal agent can execute a woman in broad daylight, and the first instinct of the institutions around him is not grief or accountability, but containment? And I remember Trump saying he could shoot somebody in New York City on the street and people will accept it. Well, he kind of did.
He did, because there is literally a GoFundMe and a Give, Send, Go, thank you Christians, for Jonathan Ross, the man who shot and killed Renee Nicole Good.
And a billionaire gave him
$10,000.
$10,000.
Containment of the scene, containment of the narrative, containment of you.
And that's why this episode isn't only about one shooting. It's about a surveillance state built slowly, sold to us in pieces, now used like a club.
We're going to frame this way, and we're going to frame this the way Scripture frames empire. Not as a tragic accident, but as a consistent spiritual pattern, a principality, a power, and a system that makes violence feel normal.
So let's walk into the street where this happened, not to sensationalize it, but to refuse the fog.
And our first drama is blood on the streets.
In the early morning hours, a woman sits alone in the driver's seat of her Honda Pilot. The vehicle is stopped on a residential street. Her window is down. She appears calm. A federal agent stands near the vehicle. He is recording with his phone. He does not speak to her. She looks at the agent. She smiles. She tells him she is not mad at him. 2 other officers approach the vehicle quickly. One officer moves to the driver's side door.
Get out of the vehicle, now.
The officer yanks on the driver's side door. He orders her out of the vehicle using profanity. The tone is aggressive. She panics. The agent who was recording lowers his phone. He draws his revolver. He fires 3 times at point-blank range into the vehicle. She is struck while seated in the driver's seat. The SUV begins to roll forward. It is uncontrolled. The vehicle travels down the street. It strikes a parked car. The SUV comes to rest. She bleeds out in the driver's seat.
Yeah, we've watched that video or several videos from different angles. I think there's a new one that I shared on my Facebook page that I need to look at, because they're just, nowadays there's cell phones. Everybody has a cell phone and you record everything. So you can't really hide anything anymore. But it is so evident that he boxed her in. That's the term they use. They literally will get near in front of the car enough to pretend that their lives is in danger, and then they shoot. And you saw before she even totally left, he pulled the revolver out of his holster.
Yeah, he did. You can see very clearly that he stepped away from being hit because he was, feet away from her. And when he shot, it's like he aimed directly at the windshield. And then he shot behind her. I don't know how you defend that.
Yeah.
He shot as the vehicle was leaving through the driver's side window, point blank at a woman who's just trying to get away.
The first shot was angled on the windshield, so I don't think that was the shot that killed her. But he fired 2 extra shots, which probably is what hit her head. Now, those 2 shots, that's murder. That's total murder. This has to go to trial.
Has to.
So then we're going to...
earlier. Go ahead.
Okay. So moments earlier, she told the man filming her that she was not mad at him.
He's the one who kills her.
In the first minutes after violence, the human instinct is to help. The institutional instinct is to control the scene and the story.
So we're going to have another vignette here.
The shots have already happened. The woman is still inside the Honda Pilot. The morning air is frigid. A crowd gathers, shocked and furious.
Oh my God. Somebody help her. Let a doctor through.
Witnesses say a physician is on scene. People ask to check on her.
Stay back.
She's still in the car. Just let someone look at her.
Stay back.
The crowd says the street is not cleared for emergency access. They say help is delayed.
Why aren't you clearing the street? Why are you stopping them?
Back up.
When paramedics finally move in, the ambulance is not close to the vehicle. The paramedics pull her from the SUV. They carry her through the cold, a long distance, to where the ambulance is parked.
This is wrong. This is murder.
Witnesses describe the shooter walking away from the scene. They say he looks down at his phone as he leaves.
He's just walking away. Like this is nothing.
Move back.
Cold-blooded killer. Even his face, when he went all the way down and he said, call 911. Call 911.
He's casually looking at his phone after he murdered someone. He goes over there to see if she's dead. Maybe he was going to shoot her again.
Who knows?
If she was moving. Jonathan Ross is the man who shot Renee Nicole Good. And he has been in federal immigration enforcement for nearly 20 years. He's not a rookie.
No.
But here's the thing most people don't know. ICE itself has only existed since 2003.
Yeah.
This agency that has become so powerful, so omnipresent, so untouchable, it's barely old enough to drink.
Immigration and Customs Enforcement was created by the Homeland Security Act of 2002. Passed in the aftermath of September 11th, Congress rushed through a massive reorganization of federal law enforcement, merging the Immigration and Naturalization Service, which had been under the Justice Department, with the U.S. Customs Service, which has been under the Treasury Department.
On March 1st, 2003, both of those agencies were dissolved and replaced with 3 new entities: U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, U.S. Customs and Border Protection, and ICE. All of them placed under a brand new cabinet department, the Department of Homeland Security.
Think about that timeline. The 9/11 attacks happened in September 2001. By March 2003, just 18 months later, Congress had completely instructed how America handles immigration enforcement. No real debate, no careful consideration of constitutional implication, just panic, grief, and a desire to look tough on national security. I have a question. Border Patrol, they're meant to govern the border. There's no border in places that they're going to. They're just harassing people.
There isn't, but there's something called the 100-mile zone, and we'll be talking about that in a minute. But here's what should make you deeply suspicious: the speed, the scope, the fact that, here we are, we have these agencies being created, and all this paperwork, and it's all ready to go. I mean, it's like it's ready to go and turn into law.
Because ICE wasn't the only thing they created. Let's talk about the entire surveillance and detention infrastructure that the Bush administration built in the immediate aftermath of 9/11. Infrastructure that feels suspiciously well planned, as I mentioned earlier, for something supposedly created in response to an unexpected attack.
And people are going to ask, because they always do, did this start even earlier, like George H.W. Bush at the United Nations talking about a new world order?
The phrase gets used like a code word. And I watched that particular trailer or whatever it was where he was talking about, and we will be successful, the new world order. I mean, it's in the back of the dollar bill, okay, that they've been at this, like I mentioned earlier, like a chess game. But in context, it was mostly about a post-Cold War international system, alliances, the UN, collective security. The more important point is simpler. Every crisis becomes an opportunity to expand executive power, not always by one secret master plan, often by incentives and institutions that reward control.
So the question isn't, did they predict the future? The question is, how far does the pattern go?
Far. It goes very far. You can trace it through war powers, surveillance programs, political policing, deportation machinery, each era handling the next one and a sharper tool.
And what about JFK? People will ask that too.
People ask because the distrust is earned. But the JFK story is contested and tangled. What we can say with confidence is this: secrecy and self-protection inside agencies have repeatedly blocked accountability. So we're not going to build this episode on theories. No, we're going to build it on what's documented and what's happening in front of our eyes right now.
Because you don't need a single conspiracy to get authoritarian outcomes. You just need a system that keeps expanding power and never pays a price. So, October 26th, 2001, just 45 days after the attacks, President George W. Bush signs the USA Patriot Act into law. The full name: Uniting and Strengthening America by providing appropriate tools required to intercept and obstruct terrorism act.
A 342-page bill passed through Congress with minimal debate. Most members admitted they don't even read it. And it's fundamentally rewrote the relationship between the American government and the American citizens regarding surveillance, privacy, and civil liberties.
The Patriot Act expanded the government's ability to conduct surveillance without warrants. It allowed sneak and peek searches where the FBI could search your home without telling you. It gave the government access to library records, medical records, financial records, all without probable cause, all without judicial oversight in many cases.
It created national security letters that allowed the FBI to demand records from businesses and organizations without a court order. And it included gag orders preventing those businesses from telling anyone they've been served with these letters. secret demands for information with no oversight and no way to challenge them.
Sounds familiar.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the key connection. The Patriot Act expanded the definition of domestic terrorism, that word, to include activities that, quote unquote, appear to be intended to intimidate or coerce the civilian population, or to, quote unquote, influence the policy of a government by intimidation or coercion.
That's broad enough to include almost any protest, any civil disobedience, any organized resistance to government policy, and it's the same framework that's now being used to justify the crackdowns on immigrants, rights activists, sanctuary city supporters, and anyone who opposes Trump's deportation machine.
Then, in November 25th, 2002, the Homeland Security Act creates the Department of Homeland Security, the third largest cabinet department in the entire federal government. 22 different federal agencies merged into one massive bureaucracy with nearly 200,000 employees and a budget that would eventually exceed $50 billion per year.
And part of that reorganization, the creation of Transportation Security Administration, the TSA, Airport Security Theater. Take off your shoes, empty your pockets, remove your belts, submit to invasive searches, get used to being treated as a potential terrorist every time you travel.
TSA isn't just about airplanes. It's about normalization. It's about conditioning Americans to accept that the government can search you, scan you, demand your papers, detain you for questioning, all without probable cause, all in the name of security. I remember, being told that the TSA looks at people as being all potential terrorists, that they're looking for, everyone to be a suspect.
And I remember part of that Patriot Act was that they could detain you without a court hearing, without letting anybody where you are.
Mm-hmm.
And then you think about all these places that Trump is trying to put together so they could literally take people into these like that Salvadorian prison and other places that they're trying to create to literally make people disappear.
Yeah.
So, and once you've accepted that at the airport, it's easier to accept it at a border patrol checkpoint 80 miles from the actual border. Once you've normalized being treated as a suspect in your own country, you stop questioning why ICE can demand papers from people who look foreign or have an accent.
But the most egregious piece of this post 9/11 infrastructure is Guantanamo Bay. We need to talk about what that place is, how it came to exist, and why it represents everything wrong with the surveillance and detention state the Bush administration built.
Guantanamo Bay, a 45 square mile U.S. naval base on the southeastern tip of Cuba. And I've never understood why that has been allowed. And the question you should be asking is, how does the United States have a military base in a communist country like Cuba? How has it existed there for over a century?
Well, the history goes back to 1898, the Spanish-American War. The United States defeated Spain, and as part of the peace settlement, took control of several Spanish countries, our homelands, including Cuba, Puerto Rico, Guam, and the Philippines.
Cuba was granted nominal independence in 1902, but the U.S. forced Cuba to include the Platt Amendment in its constitution. This amendment gave the United States the right to intervene in Cuba affairs whenever it wanted and the right to lease land for naval bases.
In 1903, Cuba leased Guantanamo Bay to the United States for $2,000 a year, later increased to $4,085 per year. That lease has no expiration date. It can only be terminated by mutual agreement or if the United States abandons the base.
So, I don't understand. So they have control over Cuba and they're able to lease land, but yet there's an embargo that's starving people to death, literally, The buildings are falling apart. So make that make sense.
It doesn't.
I don't get it. It's some sort of like production, that they're doing there. When Fidel Castro came to power in 1959, he refused to accept the lease payments. The check sits uncashed. Cuba considers the lease invalid and the U.S. presence illegal. But the United States has continued to occupy Guantanamo Bay for over 120 years. It's a long time.
And here's why this matters. Guantanamo exists in a legal gray zone. It's under U.S. control, but not technically U.S. territory. And the Bush administration exploited that ambiguity to create a detention facility beyond the reach of U.S. law and constitutional protections.
January 11th, 2002, just 4 months after 9/11, the first detainees arrived at Guantanamo Bay. They're classified as enemy combatants, not prisoners of war, not criminal defendants, but a new category that the Bush administration invented to strip them of all legal protections.
So the logic was cynical and deliberate. If they are held on U.S. soil, they get constitutional protections. If they're held in a foreign country, they get Geneva Convention protections as POWs. But if they're held in Guantanamo, U.S. controlled but not U.S. territory, then maybe they get nothing.
And for years, that's exactly what happened. No charges, no trials, no lawyers, no judicial review. People in prison indefinitely based on the evidence they couldn't see, couldn't challenge, couldn't refute. Some picked up based on false intelligence or mistaken identity. Some tortured into false confessions.
The Bush administration authorized enhanced interrogation techniques at Guantanamo. That's the euphemism, though. The reality, waterboarding, sleep deprivation, stress positions, sensory deprivation, sexual humiliation, techniques that the United States had prosecuted as war crimes when used by other countries.
As it peaked, Guantanamo held nearly 800 detainees. As of 2026, there are still approximately 30 people detained there, some of whom have never been charged with any crime, some of whom have been cleared for release but remain imprisoned anyway.
And here's the connection to what we're discussing tonight. Guantanamo was the prototype. It was the test case for extra legal detention, for holding people beyond the reach of courts, for creating black sites where the Constitution simply does not apply.
So ICE detention facilities operate on the same principle, the 100-mile border zone, where constitutional rights are limited. The transfer of detainees to CECOT in El Salvador, where they were beyond U.S. legal jurisdiction. The disappearance of 800 people from a database, the 32,000 children who can't be accounted for. Now that's worrisome.
That is worrisome.
Because of a lot of the trafficking that people have gone missing and nobody knows where they are.
These are not random glitches. They are predictable outcomes of a security state built in panic after 9/11 and then scaled up, normalized, and expanded. Administration after 9/11 and expanded exponentially by Trump, a system where the government can detain you indefinitely, disappear you into facilities with no oversight, torture you, deport you to foreign prisons, all beyond the reach of courts, lawyers, and constitutional protections.
And here's what's suspicious about all of this: how quickly it happened, how comprehensive it was, how the Bush administration seemed to have entire legal theories already developed about how to bypass constitutional protections.
That Patriot Act, 342 pages. It passed 45 days after 9/11. You can't write 342 pages of detailed legislation in 45 days. The Homeland Security Act, merging 22 agencies into one department, happened within a year. That kind of government restructuring takes years of planning.
The legal memos justifying torture at Guantanamo, the arguments for why enemy combatants don't get Geneva Convention protections, the whole framework for extra legal detention, it was ready to go remarkably quickly.
Now, we're not specifically saying that 9/11 was an inside job, but we are saying that the Bush administration used those attacks to implement a surveillance and detention infrastructure that they clearly wanted and had apparently already planned. They exploited national trauma to build what we have today, a police state.
And that infrastructure, the Patriot Act, DHS, and TSA, Guantanamo, the legal theories justifying torture and indefinite detention, all of it became the foundation for what ICE does today. Like I said, it's like playing a game of chess, and they slowly but surely plan the things, and they already know what they're going to do. You know,
when ICE raids your neighborhood with military equipment, that's a DHS resource, and those are Patriot Act authorities. When you're detained without charges, that's Guantanamo's extra legal detention model applied domestically. When you disappear into a database, that's the same system that made people vanish into black sites.
When Trump sends people to CCOT in El Salvador, he's using the same logic Bush used for Guantanamo. Put them somewhere beyond U.S. legal jurisdiction where courts can't reach them and constitutional protections don't apply.
The Bush administration built the machine. Obama kept it running. He deported 3.1 million people, more than any president in history. And now Trump is running that machine at maximum capacity with all the safety mechanisms removed.
From the Patriot Act to ICE raids, from Guantanamo to CCOT, from enhanced interrogation to sexual torture at Fort Bliss, the continuity is undeniable. This isn't partisan. Both parties built this. Both parties expanded it. But Trump is using it in ways that should terrify everyone.
And none of the 9/11 hijackers were undocumented immigrants. They all entered the United States legally on valid visas. But the government used the fear and the trauma of those attacks to build a massive deportation machine aimed at people who had nothing to do with terrorism.
ICE absorbed the criminal investigative detention and deportation resources of the Immigration and Naturalization Service. In other words, it took the most punitive, most aggressive function of immigration enforcement and gave them unlimited resources, military equipment, Patriot Act surveillance authorities, and a mandate to treat immigration's violations, civil infractions, not crime, as a matter of national security.
And those resources grew astronomically. Congress began providing ICE with increased funding for detention facilities, sometimes giving the agency more money than it even requested. The 2004 Intelligence Reform and Terrorism Prevention Act required DHS to increase available detention beds by 8,000 each year from 2006 through 2010.
Let me repeat that. Congress mandated that ICE expand its capacity to cage human beings by 8,000 people per year, not because there was evidence this was necessary, not because crime was increasing, but because the political optics demanded that we look like we were doing something after 9/11.
So fast forward to this week. As of January 7, 2026, 6 days ago from the night we're recording, there are 68,990 people detained in ICE facilities, the highest number in American history. And ICE now has over 22,000 agents and counting, more than double what it had at the start of 2025.
This didn't happen by accident. This is the result of deliberate policy choices that started with Bush, continued through Obama, and have accelerated dramatically under Trump's choice that prioritized that appearance of security over actual safety, that prioritized control over human rights, that built Guantanamo, then brought Guantanamo home.
Now let's talk about Donald Trump, because Trump didn't create the system. Bush built it, Obama expanded it, but Trump has always been obsessed with immigration. And his relationship with immigration enforcement isn't policy, it's personal. It's rooted in a lifetime of racism, discrimination, and a fundamental belief that some people are inferior. because of where they were born or the color of their skin.
We're going to take a brief detour here to establish something critical. Donald Trump's relationship with immigration enforcement isn't policy, it's personal. It's rooted in a lifetime of racism, discrimination, and the fundamental belief that some people are inferior because, well, where they were born or the color of their skin.
So let's go back to 1973. Donald Trump is 27 years old, working for his father's real estate empire, and the U.S. Department of Justice files a lawsuit against him, his father, Fred Trump, and their company for violating the Fair Housing Act by refusing to rent apartments to Black applicants.
So this is vignette, a lifelong pattern. So 5,
Just do the one. Yes.
3.
New York City, years before the presidency. A young real estate heir sits with a man who has made a career out of fear. His mentor is a lawyer named Roy Cohn.
They are coming at you. The press, regulators, people with paperwork and clean hands. They want you to apologize. They want you to explain. Never do it.
But they keep calling. They keep saying, I have to respond.
You do respond with offense, with pressure, with accusation. You call them liars. You call them corrupt. You make them prove everything twice. And while they do that, you keep moving.
The lesson is not legal. It is spiritual. Reality belongs to whoever speaks last and loudest.
What if I am wrong?
Wrong is for people who lose. You are not wrong. You are attacked. And an attacked man is allowed to do anything to survive.
This is how a conscience is trained. Not by truth, by victory.
Deny, attack, never admit weakness.
And when you repeat that long enough, it becomes policy.
We actually saw the movie, the story of Donald Trump and his relationship with Roy Cohn. And the man was ruthless, and he taught Donald Trump to be ruthless as well. That's why he denies everything. I never knew them. What they're talking. He's always denying everything, and then he turns it around and he criticizes people, just like Cohen taught him.
Oh yeah, he was a great
Mentor,
student of Roy Cohn. Roy Cohn famously was a mob lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
He defended criminals.
Yeah, he was good at it too.
So earlier we told you the story of Renee Nicole Good, how she sat in her car on a residential street in Minneapolis, how she tried to leave, how an ICE agent shot her 3 times, and how the Department of Homeland Security immediately called it justified.
But there's more to that story than eyewitness account and government lies. There's evidence, video evidence from multiple angles, and what the evidence shows reveals everything you need to know about how ICE operates, how it justifies violence, and how the system protects agents who kill. And it's not the first time. They have had many murders on their hands, and who knows how many have not been recorded and have not been confronted.
Oh, yeah. ABC News obtained video footage from the incident, and they conducted a frame-by-frame analysis, verified the footage from at least 4 different sources, including the agent's own cell phone recording. And here's what the frame-by-frame analysis revealed.
At 9:37:13 a.m., Renee Good is sitting in the driver's seat of her Honda Pilot in the middle of a residential street. Federal ICE agents surround her vehicle. She turns her car's steering wheel to the right, away from the ICE agent who shot her just over 1 second before the first of 3 gunshots were fired.
Away from the agent, not toward him, away.
The agent standing to the front left of the vehicle pulls out his gun and fires 3 times. Renee Good is hit. She dies from her injuries. A mother of 3 shot dead on a residential street.
Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey and Minnesota Governor Tim Walz both disputed ICE's account of what happened. President Trump, he immediately defended the shooting. Without reviewing the evidence, without analyzing the video, he simply defended his federal immigration crackdown.
And Roy Cohn would be very proud. This is how state-sanctioned violence works. An agent shoots someone, the government releases a narrative justifying that violence, And the president backs that narrative before any investigation, before any analysis, before any accountability. And that's not how it works here in the United States of America. You have a day in court, you're proven innocent until proven guilty.
And let's make this point very clear. Renee Good was not undocumented. She was a white, woman. She was a U.S. citizen. She wasn't the target of the ICE operation. She was simply a bystander caught on a street where ICE was conducting a raid and had already finished.
Yeah.
And when she tried to leave, she was executed.
This is what ICE has become under Trump's second term. An agency with over 22,000 agents, billions in funding, military equipment, and a culture of impunity so deeply embedded that they can shoot a U.S. citizen and immediately call it justified. And with a bunch of thugs they need anger management. These people go off in an instant. Saw a clip the other day. Woman was recording something. The guy literally slapped the phone out of the woman's hands.
Yeah. And he said, don't you realize what happened? Have you not learned your lesson yet?
In other words, saying, do you want to get shot like she did?
So let's talk about the 100-mile border zone, because most Americans don't realize this. 2/3 of the U.S. population, it lives within the 100 miles of a border, not just the southern border, but the northern border and the coastlines.
And in that 100-mile zone, your Fourth Amendment rights are diminished. Border Patrol and ICE can search your vehicle without a warrant. They can demand your papers. They can detain you for questioning. Your rights simply don't fully apply.
And why? Because the government ain't claimed it's about border security, about stopping the flow of drugs and weapons, about preventing unauthorized entry. But what's actually happening is a surveillance and control apparatus so vast that it touches the lives of over 200 million Americans.
The 100-mile zone is where Renee Good was killed. The 100-mile zone is where ICE has expanded its authority dramatically under Trump. The 100-mile zone is where your constitutional protections simply don't apply the way they should.
The shooting of Renee Good reveals something even more disturbing. It reveals how the system protects those who use violence on behalf of the state, because this isn't just about one agent making a split-second decision. This is about a system that explicitly tells agents, you are protected. Your violence will be justified. You will face no consequences.
We got a couple of... Somebody writes, progressive and leftist. Labeling people that solves what? Progressive and leftist. Or we could say conservative and right-winger nut jobs. I mean,
yeah.
And then what do we got? Generation X and former Democrat of 28 years. And I'll tell you one thing, we're never going back to the party that hates us. Enjoy being the ideological minority in this country. I think you got it wrong there, buddy. You people are going to be like the dinosaurs because the American public doesn't like what it's seeing. And you just wait.
You can talk all you want. You know, the reality is that people are getting fed up and they're going to fight back. And that's how it is in this country. Americans will not take it.
Let me ask you, you call this freedom? The United States of America is supposed to be the land of the free. You're supposed to have rights as a citizen. Do you feel like you have rights right now? Just wait, because they'll come for you too. They'll make up any excuse.
The elites don't care about your whiteness.
They don't, obviously.
All they care about is their own.
Yeah.
And I don't think you have $1 billion, so you're not in their club either.
No.
Doesn't matter if I have dark skin or not.
Yeah, nobody has. I mean, unless you are part of that bloodline, you're all toast. And as soon as AI takes over, they're going to be rounding every single one of us, even you. Okay, so we need to understand who Jonathan Ross is, not just as an individual, but as a representative of a system that takes veterans, trains them to see threats everywhere, puts them in immigration enforcement roles, and gives them the power to kill with near total impunity.
So we got a vignette coming up. It's,
Okay.
Christina.
All right. So it's okay.
Within hours, the story is no longer about what happened. It is about what will be said. In a back room, the talking points are written before the public ever sees the video. The secretary is told the line.
You need to stay on message. Do not discuss the footage. Do not discuss procedure. Do not give them a human being.
People are going to ask if she had a weapon.
You do not answer that. You label her. You fix the category.
What category?
Domestic terrorist.
Domestic terrorist. 2 words that erase a face. 2 words that remove grief from the equation.
She was in a car. People saw it.
People see what we tell them they saw. You say she was a threat. You say our agents acted decisively. You say this is what safety looks like.
And if they ask why medical aid was delayed.
You say the scene was unsafe. You say the crowd was hostile. You say our people had to secure the perimeter.
The script is familiar. The dead must be turned.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, within minutes of the shooting, the federal government apparently knew that Renee was a domestic terrorist and that she was, that she invented all this story about a truck being stuck in the snow, and there's no evidence of any truck being stuck in the snow. And on Sunday, she talked with Jake Tapper on CNN, and Jake asked her about that, and she doubled down. It's like when you lie, you have to double down on your lies.
I'm trying to understand the brain cells of these individuals. They don't understand that it doesn't matter what party, whether it's the Republican Party or the Democrat Party. Both wings belong to the same bird. It's the elites that are trying to take away our freedom and pit us against each other. And people like you that think, oh yes, I'm never going back to the other party. Both parties the same thing. Obama, Bush, Reagan, Clinton, all of them.
3.1 million people were deported. Under who? Under
Obama.
Under who? I mean,
it's the same, but it's like, what kind of brain cells do you have? That's what I said. Do you have any brains? Because it's like they're going to use all this to take all of our freedoms away. Watch a movie called Equilibrium. Read the book 1984. You've got to wake up. It's not about fighting one another. It's about uniting, because united, they can't go against us because they're 1%. But if we divide, then they stand a chance. Open that little brain cell of yours.
So let's talk about that 100-mile zone. And it was established in 1925, just a year after the Border Patrol itself was created. And to understand ICE, to understand what's happening on our streets right now, we need to go back to the beginning. We need to understand that the violence, the racism, the impunity, none of this is an aberration. It's actually the foundation.
And that foundation was laid by the American presidents, men whose faces are carved into mountains, men who are celebrated as heroes in our history books, men who explicitly believe in racial hierarchies and use the power of the presidency to enforce white supremacy through immigration policy. And those are the only people, I believe, that are like toting Trump's flag, because they're racist themselves. Those are the people that he has appealed to, because they don't want anything other than white. And that's what you mean. Never going back to the other.
Yeah, we're never going back. We're going to make America
great again. Oh, yeah.
When it had no civil rights.
Yeah.
So let's start with Theodore Roosevelt, the progressive hero, the trust buster, the conservationist, the man on Mount Rushmore. He's also the man who described white Americans as the forward race.
Yeah, the incubator babies.
With the responsibility to raise the status of minorities through training the backward races in industrial efficiency, political capacity, and domestic morality.
I wanted to say that the real people of this world are the indigenous, the colored people, the people that are true to this Mother Earth. All you whiteys are incubator babies who are created, and your lack of And the fear of being less than is what's causing what you're doing now. But you are the weaker race, and you know it, and that's why you fear us. That's a direct quote from a 1905 speech on race relations. Roosevelt didn't hide his beliefs. He wrote that the white citizens bore the burden of preserving the high civilization route out by its forefathers. He believed in a racial hierarchy with white Americans at the top, destined for what he called global supremacy, a doctrine we now call white supremacy. And, it's like the plague and all this stuff that you guys brought because you were dirty. You didn't even know how to wash yourself. And you claim to be all this greater than? Please.
Roosevelt was deeply opposed to Japanese immigration to America because he believed Japanese people were racially incompatible with Americans.
Yeah, they're superior.
Which is to say, non-white. He argued that importing Japanese labor was race suicide. No amount of assimilation would be sufficient because they could never be white enough.
And this wasn't just rhetoric. Roosevelt shaped immigration policy based on these beliefs. He supported efforts to whiten, quote unquote, territories like Hawaii by importing Spanish immigrants while restricting Asian immigration. He used the presidency to enforce his vision of America as a white nation that might tolerate other races, but only in subordinate roles.
Roosevelt wrote that regarding Black Americans, quote, "Inasmuch as he is here and can neither be killed nor driven away, America would have to reluctantly find some way of coexisting with millions of Black descendants of slaves." Let that sink in. A U.S. president writing that Black people can neither be killed nor driven away, as if those were options he wished were actually available.
This is the ideological foundation. This is what happens when presidents believe that some races are inherently superior to others. And Roosevelt wasn't an outlier. This was mainstream American political thoughts in the early 20th century. Not just the politicians. There were a lot of actors. There were a lot, John Wayne. There was a slew of different.
Errol Flynn.
It's just like, and I don't understand why, because they're not superior in their thinking, in their abilities, in their strength, physics, nothing. And that's the problem. Little men that just can't handle being little men.
Fast forward to World War II. President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, the man who led America through the Depression, the New Deal president, the four-term president, also the man who signed Executive Order 9066 on February 19th, 1942.
Executive Order 9066 authorized the forced removal of all persons deemed a threat to national security from the West Coast to relocation centers further inland. The result was the incarceration of over 125,000 Japanese Americans. 2/3 of them, more than 80,000 people, were United States citizens. Do you think that won't happen again?
These weren't detention facilities. FDR himself used the term concentration camps. In 1936, 6 years before Pearl Harbor, Roosevelt privately wrote that in the event of war, quote, "every Japanese citizen or non-citizen on the island of Oahu who meets these Japanese ships or has any connection with their officers or men should be secretly but definitely identified and his or her name placed on a special list of those who would be the first to be placed in a concentration camp," unquote.
Read that again. In 1936, FDR was already planning concentration camps for Japanese Americans. This wasn't a panic reaction to Pearl Harbor. This was premeditated, ethnic detention based entirely on race.
Over 100,000 people, most of them American citizens, were rounded up and imprisoned without charges, without trials, without due process. Families lost their homes, their businesses, their life savings. They were given days or sometimes just hours to sell everything they owned. And when they were transported to camps in remote desert locations.
These camps still exist today. You can visit them. Manzanar in California, Tule Lake, Minneapolis in Idaho, Hart Mountain in Wyoming, Topaz in Utah. Didn't we visit one in California? I think it was.
We went by it.
Yeah, Poston and Gila River in Arizona, Rower and Geronimo in Arkansas, and Grenada in Colorado, Crystal City in Texas.
Physical monuments to the fact that the United States government imprisoned its own citizens based solely on their ethnicity. And here's what should terrify you. The legal framework that allowed the Japanese internment has never fully been overturned.
In 1944, the Supreme Court upheld the constitutionality of the internment in Korematsu versus United States. That decision stood for 74 years until it was formally repudiated. Not overturned, just criticized in a 2018 Supreme Court opinion. The legal precedent for ethnic detention still exists in American law.
And that precedent connects directly to what ICE is doing today. When Trump administration officials talk about mass detention of immigrants, when they build massive facilities to cage tens of thousands of people, when they separate families and claim it's necessary for quote unquote national security, they're following a blueprint established by good old FDR.
Yeah, these weren't aberrations. These were policies implemented by celebrated presidents who believed in racial hierarchy and used executive power to enforce them. Theodore Roosevelt, forward race ideology, FDR's concentration camp. This is the tradition the ICE inherited. So when they say America is great, America's never been great. Great for the white man, great for the white man, the racism, but they don't understand that America was built by immigrants, you know?
So let's jump to 1954, just 10 years before you were born, a decade after Japanese internment. The Eisenhower administration decides it's time for another mass deportation campaign, targeting people based on ethnicity.
So this is like a reoccurring theme. May 28th, 1924, Congress passes the Labor Appropriation Act, formally establishing the U.S. Border Patrol. The agency is charged with guarding the Canadian and Mexican borders between ports of entry. And who do they recruit to fill these new positions?
Texas Rangers, men from the Ku Klux Klan, you know, the KKK, white supremacists.
Yep.
People with military backgrounds who supported white supremacy and had experience participating in brutal behavior against Mexican origin people.
The Texas Rangers have a documentary history of racial violence that is almost impossible to comprehend. During the Porvenir massacre in 1918, Texas Rangers killed 15 Mexican men who were alleged, without evidence, to have participated in ranch raid. They lined them up and executed them.
A 1919 investigation by Texas legislator Jose Tomas Canales concluded that anywhere from 300 to 5,000 people, mostly of Mexican descent, had been killed by the Texas Rangers between 1910 and 1919. 300 to 5,000. That's not law enforcement. That is ethnic cleansing.
I'm going to take a little break, and we're going to go ahead and play one of the songs. And this song, I really truly believe we have no more time. You know, we're seeing it.
No more time, no more time. No, we really have no time. No more time, no more time. No, we really have no time. Can't you clearly see place to call their own. There'll be so much destruction around the world, something so big like never seen before. The skies will turn black, no sun around, only cries of men and bodies laying dead on the ground. No. No more time, no more time. No, we really have no time. No more time, no more time. No, we really have no time. Is it you or is it me? Why can't we stop this? Let's finally live free. Whoa. Is it you or is it me? Why can't we stop this? Let's finally live free. No more time. No, we really have no time. No more time, no more time. No, we really have no time. No time, no time.
And we really have no time. I mean, I don't know what it's going to take for people to realize that this is a fight between the elites, the ones with the money, a bloodline that goes deeper than what the imagination of our minds can even muster. And I've been writing music about this for the longest time, and now more than ever, my music is so like on point. Anyway, and the Rangers brought their methods into the Border Patrol, including a practice called revenge by proxy, where agents would kill anyone they believed to be of Mexican descent as revenge for crimes committed by perpetrators believed to be Mexican. You didn't have to be guilty. You just had to look Mexican, kind of like now. You know, if they see that you have a different skin tone or have an accent, you know, they're going to bring you in.
Clifford Perkins, the first Border Patrol inspector in charge in El Paso, Texas, called the Rangers' methods rough but effective. That phrase, rough but effective, became the culture. Violence isn't a problem to be solved. It's a tool to be celebrated.
Before the Border Patrol was formally created, mounted watchmen along the border and Texas Rangers served as slave catchers, preventing enslaved Black people from fleeing south to freedom in Mexico. They enforced the Chinese Exclusion Act, targeting Chinese workers for violence and deportation. They lynched Mexicans.
This is the lineage, from Teddy Roosevelt's race suicide rhetoric to FDR's concentration camps, to the Border Patrol built from Texas Rangers and the KKK. This is what ICE inherited when it absorbed the enforcement functions of the old Immigration and Naturalization INS service in 2003. A century of racism, a century of violence, a century of impunity.
The Border Patrol was created under the National Origin Act of 1924, which established discriminatory immigration quotas based on country of origin. The explicit purpose was to keep American white, to prevent Southern Europeans, Eastern Europeans, Asians, and anyone else considered racially inferior from entering the country.
And it worked. Immigration from those regions plummeted. But Mexican workers were excluded from the quotas because growers in Texas and the other border states also needed cheap labor. So the Border Patrol's job became controlling that labor, making sure Mexican workers could be exploited, but never granted rights or citizenship.
Fast forward to 1954, 30 years after the Border Patrol creation, 10 years after the FDR Japanese internment camps, the Eisenhower administration decides to crack down on Mexican immigration. And they launched an operation with a name so racist, so degrading, that it should shock anyone who hears it.
Operation Wetback. That was the official name. The United States government used a racial slur as the title of a mass deportation campaign.
Let's hear a vignette, the next vignette that's coming up, and that would be 5. Okay.
1954. The federal government launches a mass roundup and deportation campaign. It is publicly referred to as Operation Wetback. A racial slur becomes a policy label. The president at the time is Dwight D. Eisenhower, a Republican administration, and the country is told this is order.
We are restoring control at the border. We are removing illegals. We are conducting an operation.
Notice the language. Operation. Removal. Control. Words designed to sound clean. Words designed to hide what happens to bodies.
I have papers. I live here. My children were born here.
Step aside. Show your documents. You can explain it later.
Explain it later. That is how rights disappear in real time. Not with a debate, with a command.
Where are you taking us?
Transportation. Processing. That is all you need to know.
The slur is not an accident. The slur tells you what the policy is for. It marks a people as disposable. It trains the public to treat human beings like contamination. And when the state can name an operation with a slur, it is telling you something. It is not ashamed. It expects permission. This is the lineage. The same logic. Different uniforms.
No different than now. You know, it's like they ask you for papers. If you don't have papers on you, or you don't like today we watched something, the lady was clearly, you could tell she was an immigrant. She's like, I'm an American citizen. This is where I live. This is where I belong. And they kept pushing her for identification, and she didn't show it. She just kept saying she was a citizen, and they walked away. They had to walk away because, you know, if you say you're an American citizen, they have to leave you alone. You know?
Yeah,
It's just the way.
It's insane. You know, people are just like out of control. You know, they literally have no idea what they're asking for, what's happening in this country. I mean,
you got to know your rights, and you got to know how to confront them. There's been several videos where people have confronted them, not in a confrontational way, but in a way that they know their rights, you know, and they don't like smart people. They don't like people that know their rights at all, because people that know their rights, you know, definitely.
So let's go to the next vignette.
Okay. Number 6.
Disappearance does not always happen in the street. Sometimes it happens in a database. A phone call is made.
I'm trying to locate someone who was taken this morning. I was told she was in your custody.
One moment. I'm not seeing her.
She was taken by federal agents. There is video. There are witnesses.
I'm not seeing her in the system.
Not seeing her. A phrase that sounds neutral. A phrase that ends conversations.
Is she in transit? Is she at another facility? Is she injured?
I can only tell you what is in the system.
So where do I call next?
I can't advise you on that.
This is how power hides. Not by denying what happened, but by refusing to confirm it.
She has a name. She has a family.
I'm not seeing her.
When a person becomes unsearchable, rights cannot reach them. The body still exists, but protection does not. This is disappearance by procedure.
So how many people have literally been taken, as we mentioned earlier, over, I don't know how many thousand people have gone missing. Children have gone missing, you know, literally, and they don't know where they are. And people and family members worried half to death, and they still don't know where these individuals are. So this is a racketeer. And I truly believe that this whole immigration thing was created for either trafficking, for some sort other nefarious purposes other than just immigration. There's something very dark about it.
Yeah, there's something really evil that's happening, and it's not just now. It's a system.
It's been forever. Listen, I used to work when I was younger. I think I was like 19 or 20. I worked for Chrome Detention Center in Florida, which is it was a detention center for individuals that had a lot of Haitians. And the way they treated a lot of the people there was horrible. I had to quit. I couldn't put up with it. It was just so, you know, I thought I was just getting a job as some security guard in a place. And I was hired through Wells Fargo. And I just did not like what I saw and the way they were treated and the way they were kept there. It was just, so this has been happening. And I was like 19 or 20. I'm 61.
Chrome has been in the news.
Oh, it's a horrible place. It's a horrible place. They treated people that worked badly, never mind the people that were there detained. You know, so I don't know. I don't know what kind of mentality individuals that actually took over this land that did not belong to them. They've taken it because that's all they've done is take. And I don't know. It's just, life was a little bit, although it's always existed, the whole prejudice thing has always existed, but it wasn't as far out there as it is now. And I put something on our YouTube talking about that ever since Trump has gotten into office, things have just gone overdrive. It's been horrible.
Yeah, we have a system that is literally, I mean, there's a pattern. And like you said, you noticed when you see a president like Dwight D. Eisenhower, a general in World War II, who saw the atrocities being committed by the Nazis and still chooses to use racism as a means of keeping
it's in their DNA.
The population white.
And I know that not every white person is like that. I know there's a lot of white allies that are good people that are fighting for the rights of the immigrants, but there's a seed. And I don't know if it's the incubator babies, the byproduct of some other bloodline that's been injected into some of these people. But it's like you could feel it. You could cut it with a knife. You could sense their aura, their energy, which is very, very terrible.
Yeah, we have a massive problem in this country, and if we don't get it fixed, things are going to get worse.
Yeah. So we're going to go ahead and do another song, Where Did It All Go? Which is a song I wrote back in the day as well. And it's like I said, it's always been a problem, but it's never been as bad as it is now, because, yeah.
Where did it all go? There was a time when time stood still, and the hour didn't matter. When men were men and life back then had a different kind of value. Where did it all go? And why are we missing that little special kind of love? We had no worries, life was delicious, and there's a mutual respect. There was a year with the fear and the need to lead with kindness. We got along and love was strong, and forgiveness was a given. Where did it all go? And why are we missing that little special kind of love? We had no worries, life was delicious, and there's a mutual respect. I think I know where we went wrong. We let our ego overcome us. The greed and hate did dominate and removed all of our kindness. Where did it all go? And why are we missing that little special kind of love? We had no worries, life was delicious, and there's a mutual respect. Excuse me, sir, what makes you think that you have all of the answers? Your fancy cars, your real beliefs. A dictator is not needed. Where did it all go? Why are we missing that little special kind of love? We had no worries, life was delicious, and was a mutual respect. There is one God, yet we forgot, and have turned him into a business. They reprimand self-righteous men. They lead this land with fear and cruelness. Where did it all go? Why are we missing that little special kind of love? We had no worries. Life was delicious and was a mutual respect. Don't you forget it. We were born without freedom, and you can't take that away. You can try to persuade us, you can even betray us, but we will always be free. But did it all go? Why are we missing that little special kind of love? We had no worries, and life was delicious, and there's mutual respect.
I want to take this time to ask you guys, if you haven't subscribed yet, to please hit that notification button and subscribe and share. You could also support the channel by either going to PayPal, making a one-time donation, or reoccurring, or become a Patreon. Also, you could purchase some of the music. If you go to Spotify, I have the link down below. It has all my 4 releases that I have so far on Spotify, iTunes, or anywhere that you listen to your downloadable music. We highly appreciate that, your support. We're trying to put a lot of information out there, trying to help people understand what's really going on, in this crazy life that we're living in right now. It's nothing new to me, because I know that this was going to happen way back when. And some of the songs that I'm bringing back to life are songs that I wrote back in 2007, 2008, and 2009. And they're so apropos right now, more so than ever. So anyway, we want to thank you guys for supporting us in whichever way. And if you can't support us monetarily, please share, subscribe, and just, write a comment every now and then on our videos and stuff.
So we wanted to talk about the system and how it operates by quotas. Because even here in New Mexico, we have a detention facility that is housing immigrants, people undocumented, or people just caught in the system. And sometimes you wonder, is there just a system that's in play here that's working to just keep the ball rolling and keep the machine fed of labor, of people that are just basically buried into a system? And do these ICE agents have a quota that they're having to meet?
Well, they do.
In order?
A lot of these prisons make money because they're privately owned.
Yeah.
And so the same thing with immigration. There's something so deep in that rabbit hole. It's not just about illegal aliens. People think they're breaking laws. No, this system is very corrupt. And if you go down the rabbit hole, you'll find out how corrupt it actually is. They're there to make money. They're there to utilize these bodies that go missing. And you could think whatever you want to think and go as dark as you want to go, because there you're going. That's exactly what's happening. This is no joke whatsoever.
So when a nation lets a slur like Operation Wetback become policy branding, it isn't just enforcing a border, it's enforcing a hierarchy. And we wanted to present to you the quota.
The system does not always need hatred. Sometimes it only needs a target, a number, a quota.
I need activity up this week. Encounters, stops, result.
Results meaning arrests.
Results meaning numbers.
Numbers, a word that turns a human being into a unit.
People are already afraid. They're staying inside.
Then we make contact. Visibility matters. Presence matters.
This is going to create complaints.
Complaints are noise. Numbers are signal.
This is how violence becomes predictable, not through rage, through incentives.
Overtime goes to productive teams. Promotions go to productive teams. Assignments go to productive teams.
And if someone gets hurt,
Then we followed procedure. Then they resisted. Then it was necessary.
Procedure is the language of innocence. It turns choices into paperwork.
So what do you want us to do?
I want outcomes. I want numbers. I want you to stop hesitating.
When mercy does not count, mercy disappears, and the street becomes a pipeline.
When you see what's playing out on the world stage, when you see the president deem somebody guilty without a trial, without any investigation, when you see Kristen Noem do the same thing, when you see the vice president do the same thing, you know they have a playbook that they're playing by. You know that they have an agenda. You have to be blind, and a lot of people are probably very blind, like the individual that was in the chat. You know, they're allowing their own racism, their hatred of anything other than being white take over their hearts and their souls, and this is what you get. But you don't realize that you're just as dispendable as anyone else, whether you're white, black, Hispanic, Japanese, Chinese, whatever country you are.
I mean, if anything was proven by what happened last week, it's that no one is
safe.
immune.
No one's safe.
I mean, no one is safe. If a 37-year-old soccer mom can be killed in the middle of a street in Minneapolis,
daylight,
in the broad daylight, in front of thousands of people that were protesting around, I mean, it's a system that says, if you say something, we will kill you.
And you're just like a number. You're just resources, because when they need workers, or when they need whatever it is, experimental bodies, sacrificial lambs, whatever it is, go as dark as you want, because as dark as you're going to go, you're going to hit the nail on the head. We're no longer living in like Alice in what is in Wonderland. This is real. This is getting really real, real quickly. And there's just a lot of things that many people don't want to put their minds in that area, but go as dark and as deep as you can, and you've got to hit the nail on the head, because we're talking about trafficking. We're talking about rituals. We are talking about all sorts of disgusting things that are going to be played out in the stage called life.
So we wanted to present another vignette. It's about the 100-mile border zone and how it actually works. Say a person is driving, and all of a sudden they get approached by an ICE officer.
Most people think the border is a line on a map, but in the United States, enforcement stretches far beyond the line. A wide zone covers much of the population. It reaches deep into the interior. On an ordinary morning, a traveler is pulled aside.
Where are you headed?
Hold.
Citizenship.
Excuse me.
Are you a citizen?
Yes.
Prove it.
It is not an arrest. It is a question, but the question is a gate.
I don't have my passport. I'm just driving.
Step out of the vehicle.
Am I being detained?
Step out of the vehicle.
This is how normal life is trained into compliance. Not with a courtroom, with a roadside command.
I'm not doing anything wrong.
Then you have nothing to worry about.
That sentence is always a lie. Because the point is not wrongdoing. The point is permission. Who gets to move freely, and who has to prove they belong.
Hands where I can see them.
The border becomes a method. A traveling checkpoint. A reminder that rights can be questioned anywhere.
I always thought it was interesting that you would have ICE agents in Chicago when there is, I mean, I could understand if it was Detroit, because Detroit has Canada close to it. But last I checked, living in Minneapolis,
there's no borders.
Myself, there's a river called the Mississippi.
But that's not a border.
But, you know, Duluth is like 2 hours to the north, and then from there it's another 2 hours to get to the Canadian border. So you're at least 4 to 5 hours away from the border.
Right.
But since we have waterways, apparently they justify this.
The bottom line is that the ICE agents are serving as entities that will detain whether you're a citizen, whether you're not a citizen. They're being used to bring in the New World Order, because they know they can't use like the National Guard, they can't use, the Army, Navy, whatever it is, to do the dirty work. So these people that are working for Trump have allegiance to Trump. So he's got his own private army there.
Yeah, but we were talking about something about in one of our shows, the meaning of words and stuff, and something had to do with shipping and using waterways as a means of identification.
Right.
And I think that this is also something that utilizes that
kind of
legal
word magic in a sense. Yeah.
So
by the end of the Operation Wetback in 1954, as many as 200,000 Mexican immigrants had been deported or fled on their own to escape the harassment. Many were lawful in the country. Some were U.S. citizens. The government didn't care. Sound familiar?
Tactics were brutal then, and they are brutal now.
Yeah.
In 1954, border agents loaded people onto boats and transported them deep into Mexico's interior, dropping them off hundreds of miles from the U.S. border. In 2025, the Trump administration is doing the exact same thing, deporting people not just across the border, but deep into Mexico or Central America, making reunification with families nearly impossible.
And in the last few weeks, right here in Minneapolis, we've watched ICE tactics escalate in public. Local reportings and national outlets have documented agents dragging people through snow, using pepper spray and pepper balls as crowds try to record what's happening. The Minneapolis police chief has publicly criticized ICE for refusing to de-escalate the uniforms and the legal justification charges. The logic does not sanctuary cities. We're seeing ICE agents in tactical gear with military equipment terrorizing neighborhoods. The uniforms have changed, the legal justifications have evolved, but the fundamental approach, racialized terror, has immigrants and force, remains exactly the same. I can barely see that.
So let's talk about what happens after people are detained, because the violence doesn't end with the arrest. It continues with ICE detention facilities, where people are held in conditions that violate both domestic and international law.
December 2025 was the deadliest month for ICE detainees in recent history. 7 people died while in ICE custody or shortly after being transferred to hospitals. 7 human beings in 1 month.
One of those deaths was Francisco Gaspar Andres, an immigrant from Guatemala, who died of liver and kidney failure after failing to receive appropriate medical care at Fort Bliss Detention Facility on December 3rd, 2025.
Fort Bliss is the largest immigration detention facility in the United States, and the conditions there are horrifying. The ACLU recently released findings based on interviews with more than 45 people currently detained there, including 16 signed declarations.
People described violent assaults by officers, including sexual abuse. Multiple detainees reported officers, listen to this, crushing their testicles during beatings, a torture tactic used while people were already restrained or after they refused coerced removal to Mexico.
Let me read you some of the testimonies. These are real people using pseudonyms. For protection, Abel, Benjamin, and Eduardo reported being slammed, stomped on, and beaten when they expressed fear of being sent to Mexico or when they simply requested their medications.
The ACLU's letter states these are not isolated incidents. They reflect a pattern of brutality that violates even ICE's minimal standards. Even ICE's minimal standards. Think about that. ICE has such low standards for how it treats human beings that detainees can be sexually assaulted, beaten, denied medical care, and it still violates those already abysmal standards.
Another death in December 2025, Silvestre Gancher, held at the North Lake Detention Facility. Congresswoman Dela Ramirez and Rashida Tlaib noted that There have been numerous complaints from family members and advocates about inhumane conditions and inadequate medical care at North Lake. Other detainees reported that Ganchev had asked for medical assistance and did not receive it in time to save his life.
2 of December 7th deaths occurred in processing centers themselves. The other 5 people died in hospitals after being transferred for medical care, which raises serious questions about how sick someone has to be before ICE will even acknowledge the need to help.
But here's something even more terrifying than the death we know about. What about people we don't know about? The ones who simply vanish into the system and are never heard from again, as I mentioned earlier.
Because that's happening right now.
People and especially when there's something bigger than immigration going on here, people. You know, the Epstein list that they've been trying to not allow to come out, it all ties in. There's a lot of really nefarious things going on.
There is, and people don't even realize just how deep the rabbit hole goes, because we're talking about people that literally are being disappeared into a system that they don't respect, people.
Do we have another vignette?
No, I'm just trying to make this bigger so that you can read it better.
Let's go ahead and do this other vignette. Go ahead. Vignette number 9.
When you cannot find someone, you cannot defend them. So the next move is older than any agency. It is a petition that says, produce the body, habeas corpus, a legal demand that power cannot hide people.
I need to file an emergency petition. My client is being held, and the agency will not confirm where.
Do you have a case number?
That is the problem. There is no case number, no location, no confirmation.
Without a number, I cannot docket this.
He has a name. He has a family. He has rights.
Do you have an identification number?
Yes, and they still say they are not seeing him.
Not seeing him. The phrase returns, not as a mistake, as a shield.
If the state can refuse to confirm custody, then due process is optional. Then rights are conditional.
Ma'am, I can only file what is complete.
This is complete. The emergency is complete. The disappearance is complete.
Bureaucracy does not need to argue with you. It only needs to delay you. And delay is sometimes enough. Because the longer a person is unconfirmed, the less reachable they become.
So the American Friends Service Committee documented 6 cases in October and November 2025 of families trying to locate loved ones who had been arrested by ICE. In all 6 cases, families received no official notice from any federal agency about where the relatives have been taken. 0 notification.
The average time to locate someone was 3 to 5 days from arrest confirmation of location. 3 to 5 days of families not knowing if their loved one is alive, where they are, whether they are already been deported. 3 to 5 days of terror.
And that's if you can find them at all. In 4 out of 6 cases, ICE or CBP agents misreported, denied, or withheld basic information about a person's whereabouts. They lied about where people were. They refused to provide information. They stonewalled families.
AFSC staff had to make anywhere from 7 to 25 calls per case. 7 to 25 phone calls, often involving repeated attempts to reach the same ICE field office or hotline just to find out where someone is being held. 5 out of 6 cases involved procedural violations.
Now, you could use your dark mind to even wonder what happened to these people. And ICE's online locator tool, the system that's supposed to help you find detainees, loved ones, it failed to show individuals for days or didn't show them at all, even after they've been detained or transferred between facilities. Where do you think these people are being taken to?
The AFSC report concludes people are not going missing in the detention system. They're being disappeared by it. Disappeared by design.
Yeah. In September 2024, the Miami Herald investigated the Everglades facility in Florida, nicknamed Alligator Alcatraz, of approximately 1,800 individuals detained there. In July 2025, around 800 no longer appear in the ICE database. 800 people just gone from the records.
Another 450 detainees were listed as call ICE for details, not a location, not a transfer notice, just call for details. And when attorneys and families called, they got stonewalled.
This isn't a database error. This is a pattern. A Department of Homeland Security Inspector General report found that between fiscal year 2019 and 2023, ICE transferred nearly 450,000 unaccompanied children to Health and Human Services, but ICE failed to place more than 291,000 of those children into removal proceedings. Where did those children go? Do you understand what kind of operation this is? When you're defending the ICE agent and you're defending this country and its administration, realize that you are defending some nefarious actions that are going on.
So let's say that again. 291,000 children that ICE just didn't track, didn't put into immigration court, didn't monitor.
And of children who were placed into removal proceedings, more than 32,000 failed to appear in court. ICE often failed to share that information with Health and Human Services. So HHS didn't know these kids had disappeared. Nobody was looking for them. Where did they go?
The Inspector General's report says, and this is a direct quote, that based on ICE's own official statements, unaccompanied children who do not appear for court are considered at higher risk for trafficking, exploitation, or forced labor.
Or even worse. I mean, read that again. ICE knows these children are at higher risk for trafficking. ICE knows they've lost track of 32,000 kids. That's 32,000. That's not 5. Okay, who didn't show up in court in ICE response? Nothing. No systemic effort to locate them. No coordination with other agencies. Just nothing.
And that's just the unaccompanied children. That doesn't include the family separations, because during Trump's first term, the government literally lost children they had taken from their parents.
I don't think they're lost. I think they were, The Trump administration's zero tolerance policy in 2018 resulted in thousands of family separation. The government initially admitted to separating about 2,700 children. Then in 2019, they revised that number. Actually, was almost 5,500 children.
And approximately 1,000 of those separations occurred after the court had ordered the administration to stop separating families. They were under a court order to end the practice. And, well, guess what? They kept doing it anyway.
The House Committee on Oversight and Reform reported that over 700 children had been separated from their parents after the policy official end. As many as 5 children per day were being separated. By the end of 2019, the total had reached over 1,100 post-order separations.
In March 2019, the government reported to the judge that 245 children were removed from their families, in some cases without clear documentation undertaken to track them in order to return them with their parents. Without clear documentation, they took children from their parents and didn't even write down who belonged to whom.
As of February 2023, close to 1,000 migrant children separated by Trump's administration had yet to be reunited with their parents. Nearly 1,000 children, 5 years after separation, still not reunited. Where are those kids? What is this operation really about?
The task force set up under the Biden administration has sifted through what they describe as patchwork records from the Trump administration. Patchwork, incomplete, deliberately obfuscated. They identified 3,924 separated children. The task force has reunited 600 families as of 2023.
And that means there's still more than 3,000 families that haven't been reunited. 3,000 children who were taken from their parents, and the government cannot or will not return them.
So let's ask the question nobody in power wants to ask. Where did they go? Where are the 800 detainees who vanished from Alligator Alcatraz database? Where are the 32,000 undocumented children who didn't show up to court? Where are the thousands of separated children the government can't account for?
So ICE owns official says these children are at higher risk for trafficking, exploitation, or forced labor. The Inspector General found that ICE cannot ensure children are safe from trafficking, exploitation, or forced labor because it fails to keep track of them.
Is there a massive human trafficking operation happening right under our nose, or children being funneled from ICE detention into forced labor, into sexual exploitation, into ritual sacrifices or something for the elites, into networks that the government either can't penetrate or won't investigate.
Because here's what we know. ICE arrests people and doesn't document where they go. ICE separates families and doesn't track how to reunite them. ICE transfers children and doesn't monitor their safety. ICE owns database, shows hundreds of people as unknown location, or just removes them entirely. So when people do not want to go with these individuals, because it's almost like being extracted and kidnapped, and God knows where you end up.
This is either catastrophic incompetence or deliberate criminal enterprise.
Totally.
Either ICE is so badly run that it literally loses track of tens of thousands of children and adults, or ICE is complicit in making people disappear for purposes we can only begin to imagine.
And we're going to wrap this up real soon. And frankly, given what we know about the violence at Fort Bliss, given the century of impunity, given the fact that 58% of misconduct complaints result in no action taken, I don't think this is incompetence. I think it's very much an operation designed to do what it's doing.
So when you create a system where people can be detained without charges, held in facilities with no oversight, transferred across state lines with no notification to families, and deported without court hearings, you've created the perfect infrastructure for human trafficking.
And now we know at least some of those destinations, because the Trump administration has been quietly building an international network of prison garage to send people where they can be disappeared beyond the reach of U.S. courts.
So how much time do we have?
It's 1:47, so we still have the ending video.
Okay. In February 2025, Secretary of State Marco Rubio announced an unprecedented deal with El Salvador's president, Nayib Bukele. El Salvador agreed to house violent U.S. criminals and receive deportees of any nationality, not just Salvadorans, any nationality, including people who've never set foot in El Salvador.
So we want to leave you with this thought. Do you really think that the ICE operation is about removing immigrants that are not legal, that are criminals? Or there's ICE and this whole homeland security and everything else being used for nefarious purposes, such as trafficking, such as rituals, such as all sorts of different things that, you know, it makes a lot more sense than what they claim, because the way that they're acting is not at all righteous.
So this is a pervasive history, and we wanted to share some of the voices that were disappeared and some of the people who suffered, and we're not doing a vignette.
No.
Okay. So history speaks if we listen. These are the voices of those who survived and those who didn't.
Fred, I don't think we're going to have time for that. Fred Korematsu, Japanese-American, 1983 testimony. I was born in Oakland, California. I was a citizen. I had rights. And then one day soldiers came with guns and told us we had 48 hours to sell everything we own. My family lost our home, our business, everything. We were American citizens, and they put us in camps surrounded by barbed wire with machine guns pointed at us.
Separated child, 2018. Don't leave me here. Please, Mama, don't leave me.
I was sick. I begged for a doctor. They said I was faking. My liver was failing. They didn't care. I'm going to die here, aren't I?
They didn't ask if we were citizens. They just saw brown skin and grabbed us. They put us on trains like cattle. My brother was born in Texas, American citizen, and they deported him to Mexico anyway. We never saw him again.
And there's a lot more, but in order for me, we're only allowed 2 hours, and then the outro is a 5-minute outro, so we have to.
Okay, well, we have to do what we got to do.
So anyway, guys, really think this through. If you're a Trump supporter, if you think that ICE is doing their job, think again, because the history shows otherwise. This is not a first time. This is just a recurring. This is like, I don't know, maybe the final move that they're going to be doing.
I don't know what's going on, but it smells really bad.
It does. It really does. So, be careful out there, because if you live in a city, it's not safe at all. And keep that phone on you so you could, because that's the only thing that saves us is the actual
So,
recording.
do we have time for
No.
the close, or do
No.
we not? We're just going to do a video?
No, the outro, or we're close. Okay, go ahead.
I don't know. I mean, because we didn't really finish the show.
I know. Well, maybe we'll have to conclude it because it just. All right. Well, there's no
good
clip.
night, everybody.
There's no clips then. If we go over it, we won't be able to do the clips that I do. But that's fine. I'll do it manually. Go ahead.
No, it's okay.
No, it's all right. Go ahead. It's all right.
Well, it's already been.
It's okay.
The show's been dismantled already, so let's just go ahead and close.
No, go ahead. This is important. Go ahead.
This episode has been about connecting dots, about showing you what's happening right now. Isn't new. It's a continuation of a century-long pattern of racialized violence disguised as immigrant enforcement, from the border patrols founding in 1924 to the enforced white supremacist immigration quotas to Operation Wetback in the 1950s to Japanese internment camps, ISIS creation after 9/11 to Trump's family separation policy to the CCOT gulag system.
Every step in that progression made the next step easier. Every expansion of power made the next expansion more acceptable. Every violation of rights normalized the next violation. And now we're at the point where the United States government can disappear 32,000 children, send people to foreign torture prisons, shoot a mother in the head on a residential street, and face minimal accountability.
But resistance is still possible. It's necessary, and it's happening right now in cities across the country. Mayors declaring sanctuary policies despite federal threats. Immigration attorneys filing lawsuits challenging ICE's authority. Community organizations creating rapid response networks to document raids and provide legal support. Journalists investigating conditions in detention facilities and publishing what they find.
The ACLU obtained those declarations for Fort Bliss detainees. The American Friends Service Committee documented the systematic disappearance. Human Rights Watch revealed the torture at CCOT. The Miami Herald exposed the missing 800 people at Alligator Alcatraz. The Inspector General published a report about 32,000 missing children.
This information exists because people refuse to accept the official narrative, because whistleblowers came forward, because attorneys demanded records, because journalists investigated, because activists organized, because ordinary people said, this is not normal, this is not acceptable, and I will not be silent.
And that's what we're asking you to do, not to panic, not to despair, but to reorganize what's happening, to understand the historical continuity, and to choose residents' assistance over compliancy.
Document everything you see. If you witness ICE raids in your neighborhood, record them safely, share information with immigrant rights organizations, support sanctuary cities, donate to legal defense funds, call your representatives and demand that they defund ICE, get rid of it, close the detention facilities, and abolish the international gulag agreements.
And most importantly, reject the propaganda. When the government tells you these people are criminals, remember that 92% of new detainees have no criminal record. When they tell you detention is necessary, remember that the families are being disappeared without documentation. When they tell you it's about national security, remember that none of the 9/11 hijackers were undocumented immigrants.
When they tell you Renee Nicole Good was dangerous, remember the witness who said she was just trying to get back in her car and leave. When they tell you the detainees at CCOT are gang members, remember they're being held without charges, without trials, without access to lawyers.
The machinery of fascism depends on public acceptance. It depends on people believing the official lies, or at least not questioning them loudly enough. It depends on exhaustion, on overwhelm, on the feeling that there's nothing you can do, so why bother trying?
But history shows that resistance works. Japanese internment camps were eventually closed, not because the government voluntarily decided to end them, But because public pressure and legal challenges made them politically untenable, the family separation policy was officially ended because the images of crying children became impossible to ignore.
It took 40 years, but the government eventually apologized for Japanese internment and paid reparation to survivors. It took decades, but the Central Park Five were exonerated and compensated. Justice is possible, but it requires sustained pressure and refusal to accept atrocities as normal.
We are at stage 4 and 5 of fascism. The camps exist, disappearances are happening, international gulag network is operational. The state violence is escalating. The legal framework for authoritarianism is in place.
But we're not yet in stage 5. We have not yet crossed into systematic extermination. We will have democratic institutions, even if they're under assault. We still have a free press. And if it's under attack, we still have the ability to organize, to resist, to fight back.
The question is whether we will. Whether this generation will be remembered as the one that stopped American fascism or the one that watched it happen and did nothing.
Because make no mistake, what we're witnessing is not just bad immigration policy. It's not just Trump being Trump. It's not just political disagreement in the systemic construction of a fascist state, checking of all 14 characteristics that political scientists use to identify fascism.
Powerful nationalism, disdain for human rights, scapegoating of immigrants, military supremacy, rampant sexism, controlled media, obsession with national security, religion and government intertwined, corporate power protected, labor power suppressed, disdain for intellectuals, obsession with crime and punishment, cronyism and corruption.
Check, all 14. That's not a coincidence. That's not an accident. That's a deliberate project to transform the United States from a flawed democracy into authoritarian regime.
And immigrant enforcement, ICE, Border Patrol, detention facilities, the CCOT gulag, disappeared children, all of that is the cutting edge of that transformation. It is the testing ground. It's where the government experiments with how much cruelty, how much violence, how much lawlessness the American public will tolerate.
It started with undocumented immigrants because it's politically easier, because people can tell themselves, well, they shouldn't have come here illegally. But the Alien Enemies Act that Trump invoked to send people to CCOT, that applies to anyone from the country with which the U.S. is in conflict. That could eventually include naturalized citizens. That could include U.S. citizens with dual nationality.
The agreement with El Salvador explicitly includes provisions for deporting U.S. citizens to CCOT. American citizens born here, Trump administration is actively exploring sending them to foreign prisons beyond the reach of U.S. courts.
That's not immigration enforcement. That's extrajudicial banishment. That's the kind of thing we condemn when authoritarian regimes do it. That's what the Soviet Union did with gulags. That's what China does with Uyghur detention camps. That's what Nazi Germany did before the final solution.
And it's happening right now, right here, with bipartisan support in some cases. Remember, Democrats voted for the Homeland Security Act that created ICE. Democrats funded the detention bed quotas. President Obama deported 3.1 million people. This isn't just about Trump. This is about a system both parties built.
But Trump is using that system in ways that should alarm everyone, regardless of the party. The pardons for January 6th insurrectionists, the attacks on sanctuary cities, the CCOT Gulag agreement, the execution of Renee Nicole Good, the disappearance of 32,000 children.
This is the America we live in right now, January 2026. Highest number of people in ICE detention in history. 7 deaths in 1 month. Torture in foreign prisons paid for by U.S. taxpayers. And a mother shot in the head in front of witnesses, and a president who pardons violent extremists while expanding the infrastructure of disappearance.
So what do? We've given you the information. We've shown you the historical continuity. We've documented the current atrocities. We've identified where we are on the spectrum of fascism. Now the question is, what will you do with this knowledge?
Will you share this information? Will you talk to people in your community about what's happening? Will you support sanctuary policies and immigrant rights organizations? Will you call your representatives and demand accountability? Will you document ICE raids and share that information with legal advocates?
Or will you tell yourself it's not your problem, that it doesn't affect you, that there's nothing you can do anyway, because that's what people in Germany told themselves in 1933, in 1935, and in 1938, until it was their neighbors being taken, their family members, themselves.
First they came for the immigrants, and I did not speak out because I was not an immigrant. That's how it starts. That's how it always starts. The machinery of fascism is tested on the most vulnerable, the most marginalized, the people society has already been conditioned to see as less than human.
But it never stops there. Once the infrastructure exists, the detention facilities, the legal framework for extrajudicial detention, the international Gulag Agreement, the culture of impunity for agenda who commit violence, it can be turned on anyone, activists, journalists, political opponents, anyone that regime decides is an enemy.
We're in stages 4 and 5, mass detention and disappearance. I mean, the only question is whether we'll recognize that it's what's happening in time to stop it. Whether we'll be the Germans who resisted in 1933 or the ones who waited until 1945 and then claimed they didn't know.
Because we know. We have Inspector General reports. We have ACLU investigations. We have Human Rights Watch documentation. We have witness testimony. We have secret memos about payments to CCOT. We have evidence. We have proof. We know.
And that means we have responsibility to document, to resist, to refuse to normalize this, to tell the truth even when it's uncomfortable, to say the words, this is fascism, and it's happening here, and we will not be complicit.
Renee Nicole Good's name needs to be remembered. Francisco Gaspar Andres needs to be remembered. The 32,000 missing children need to be found. The 3,000 separated families need to be reunited. The people disappeared in CCOT need to be freed. The 125,000 Japanese American imprisoned by FDR deserve our acknowledgement of what was done to them.
And the millions of people living in fear right now in Chicago and Los Angeles, New York, and every city where ICE raids are terrorizing communities, they need our solidarity, our protection, our willingness to stand between them and the machinery of state violence.
This is the moment. This is where we are, January 2026. All 14 characteristics of fascism present. Stages 4 and 5 in progress. The international Gulag system operational. The highest detention numbers in history. State-sanctioned violence escalating.
And you, listener, viewer, fellow human being, you have to decide, what will you do? What will your grandchildren say when they ask you what you did when American fascism was on the rise? Will you be able to tell them you resisted, or will you have to admit you looked the other way?
Because history will remember this moment. These detention facilities, these disappeared children, the CCOT Gulag, this execution of Renee Nicole Good. All of it will be in the history books. The question is, will history record that we stopped it or that we let it happen?
We've given you the information. We've shown you the evidence. We've made the connections. Now it's up to you. Document, resist, organize, speak out, refuse to normalize atrocities, demand accountability, support sanctuary, abolish ICE, close the gulags, find the children, free the dispersed,
and get rid of this administration. This is Transition Radio Show. We're Mark and Lena, and we're asking you not to forget, not to look away, not to accept that this is normal or inevitable or beyond our power to change.
Because it's not. Fascism is a choice. Resistance is a choice. And right now, in this moment, we all have to choose.
Choose wisely. The future is watching. All right, guys, it's been a long one. We love you, but remember to always love yourselves too. Good night.
See the man standing there, his heart is broken and you don't care. All you think about are your pleasure.
People of this world, it's time to get along.
I don't understand. I don't understand why we don't. How many pairs of shoes you own? Too many to count and to call your own. You've wasted life on seeking treasures. People of this world, it's time to get along. I don't understand. I don't understand why we don't. Look around this world, young man. Things will fall on your hands. If we don't change our ways, we'll be in danger. People of this world, it's time to get along. I don't understand. I don't understand why we don't. Too many poor for us to feed. The rich are richer and the greed has taken over our emotions. People of this world, it's time to get along. I don't understand. I don't understand why we don't. Do you think there is a chance for us to save our world, our dams? Our way of life must be changed. People of this world, it's time to get along. I don't understand. I don't understand why we don't. A little more humanity, a caring voice, and loving means the time is now.